before I watched Sex and the City, I don't know why I had the impression that Carrie Bradshaw was that girl. That girl with great fashion taste, mysterious, but most importantly, that girl who doesn't let anybody, any man specifically, disrespect her. That girl who doesn't take shit from any man. Imagine my surprise when I watched Sex and the City and I found out that Carrie sometimes has questionable fashion taste, publishes all the details of her private life on her column while using everybody's government name except for Mr. Big, and lets a mediocre, immature, old man disrespect her and walk all over her. So if you haven't watched Sex and the City, the premise of the show is that Carrie Bradshaw and her other three friends, Samantha, Charlotte, and Miranda, live their lives as 30-something years old in New York City. Carrie is the one that's narrating the show, but everything that she's narrating is actually her writing for her column that has the name Sex and the City. Her column is published in a New York newspaper, so that's her job. She's a writer. Miranda, she's a lawyer. Charlotte works at an art gallery, and Samantha is a publicist. So that's the show. All of them are single and they're having in the New York City. Now, even though that the show was filmed on the late 90s, early 2000s, I found that a lot of the topics that they discuss on the show can still be relevant to this day. For example, on season 1, episode 2, they talk about models and how pretty they are. And nowadays, that will be what we call pretty privilege. On season 1, episode 3, they talk about the weird competition that sometimes married and single women have, and how sometimes married women look down on single women. And I think that topic is still something that happens to this day. And on episode 8, they talk about threesomes, and you know, that's still happening. So I would say it's a good show. If you're interested in learning about dating or stuff like that, you should definitely watch it. But now, let's get into why Carrie Bradshaw is so embarrassing. We're gonna start with season 1, of course. Let's talk about Carrie and Mr. Big's first encounter. I'm not gonna say much, but the first time that Mr. Big and Carrie met, he saw that she had condoms on her purse, and he learned that she's a sex expert. Just to give you an idea on how the relationship of them starts, okay? That's the first encounter. Even before they went out on their first date, you could tell that Carrie really liked Mr. Big. But then eventually, finally, they go out on a first date. And what do Carrie does? She sleeps with him on the first date. Now, nothing wrong with having sex on the first date, but I'm going to say this. If you, the woman, if you like him more than he likes you, you shouldn't have sex on the first date. Let's say from a scale from 1 to 10, you like him an 8 and he likes you a 4. Why would you have sex with him on the first date? What makes you think that after having sex, he will like you more? What makes you think that he'll get attached to you if you have sex with him on the first date? Because I feel like that was low-key her intention, like, oh, let me kind of like grab his attention. Girl, he doesn't even like you that much, so what are you doing? After that happens, now they have a kind of like friends with benefits type of relationship, and Carrie, she knows that she likes him more than he likes her, but she's still trying to, you know, get him attached. And something that she does is that she tries to be the cool girl so bad. There's a scene where Carrie and Big went out to some place, and this lady comes up to Mr. Big and she kissed him on the mouth in front of Carrie. It doesn't matter if you're friends with benefits, this or that. There needs to be some level of respect. She's trying so hard to be the cool girl, and you cannot be the cool girl with a guy that you like more than he likes you. You can only be the cool girl if you don't even like him that much. But you cannot like a guy so much, like almost obsessed with him, and try to act like, yeah, I'm cool if other girls kiss him in front of me. Girl. Let's talk about how in the first season we can immediately tell how Mr. Big and Carrie are definitely not on the same page. So Mr. Big, he's in his 40s. He was married before, he's now divorced, and he wants to enjoy some of his freedom. On the other hand, we have Carrie. She's in her 30s, but she's like 10 or 12 years younger than him. She's never been married. She doesn't have kids, but it seems like she wants to settle down, specifically with Mr. Big. Now let's talk about that age gap that I mentioned before. They have like a 10 to 12 12-year age gap. They're both grown. I personally don't think the age gap is a problem. She's in her 30s and he's in his 40s. I don't think it's that big of a deal. But the other reason I don't think it's that big of a deal is because both of them act like teenagers. So it's almost like both of them are the same age in the head. For example, like I said, Carrie is on her 30s and her whole job is to talk about and dating, right? Let's say she started dating guys from the age of 18. And let's say that in season 1 she's 30 years old. So she's been dating different guys on and off for 12 years. In my opinion, Carrie is a little bit too old to act like she doesn't know how guys play, because it seems like throughout the show she's getting played not only by Mr. Big but by a lot of other guys. My question was, what did you do from 18 to 30? I thought she was dating people. I feel like she's a little bit too old to not know how guys behave. By the age of like 23, 25, if you've been out on the dating pool, you should already know a few things about how men operate. But when the show starts, she acts like she doesn't know anything about men. So I feel like she acts a little bit too young for her age, especially with Mr. Big. She really doesn't see the red flags of Mr. Big, and that drives me insane, because by the age of 30, you've been dating throughout your whole 20s, meaning 10 years at least. By the age that you're 30, you should know how men are. Like, why is she so surprised, and why doesn't she understand or see Mr. Big red flags? She's acting like this is the first guy that she has ever dated, so she doesn't really know how mean or how much of a player a guy can be, but it's really not. This is not her first time dating a guy, so I don't understand why she behaves like that with him. And then we have Mr. Big on the other hand. He's in his 40s and he still wants to talk about, oh, I like to keep my options open. Like, he behaves very much like a teenager boy.
How many women are you dating?
In the tri-state area?
What do you mean you want to keep your options open? In your 40s? And the way that he treats Carrie and the way that you see him behave is very much like, again, like a teenager, young adult. So that's why I'm saying mentally, both of them have the same age. The other thing I don't understand is why she's so into him. Like I said, she's like 10, 12 years younger than him. She's hot, she's pretty, she's a professional, she doesn't have kids, she hasn't been married. So why is she so fixated with him? It should be the other way around, in my opinion. I see that he's an attractive man, but after you get to know him in the show, no, it's a no for me. And he also uses his previous marriage as an excuse for not wanting to be in a serious relationship with Carrie. Now let's get into Carrie's Joel Goldberg era. Why is Carrie stalking this man in church?
And suddenly, there he was wearing Armani on Sunday.
And then we have the scene where Carrie Bradshaw officially became a pickmeisha. When she told that man, tell me I'm the one.
Just tell me I'm the one.
I kid you not, I was so upset watching that scene because I was like, girl, stand up. What are you doing? No, but what are you doing? By the end of season 1, I was already fed up with Carrie dying over a man who wasn't even all that. On season 2, Carrie and Big get back together. They start facing old problems because they never resolved them. For example, the one of not being on the same page. Here we have a scene where Carrie kind of forces Big to go out with her friends, and I don't know why, but this scene gave me very much the vibe of he doesn't want to be seen in public with you, and he doesn't want things to go that deep. Like, he doesn't want to meet your friends because he doesn't want to get that deep into the relationship, Carrie. Like, it's so obvious. Then we have the duck purse scene. Honestly, after watching the show and watching some of Carrie's fashion choices, I thought that she was gonna love the duck purse. But apparently she didn't like it. So here you can see how he really doesn't know her. I think I would have made the same mistake if I was Mr. Big and I saw that purse. I thought she would have loved her, but I guess she didn't. But again, that lets you know that he doesn't really know her that much. So again, they're not in the same page. And the biggest one that lets you know that they're not on the same page is Mr. Big is moving to Paris. And he doesn't tell her until last minute. Like, Carrie, Miss Thing, he doesn't care about you. He's literally moving to another country, to another continent. and he doesn't cross his mind to tell you? Do you really think he's your soulmate? Like, I'm sorry, but your soulmate is supposed to like you. You're not supposed to beg for love if that man is your soulmate. So obviously, Big is moving to Paris. Of course they break up. But then guess what? This is still season 2, by the way. He comes back to New York City. He doesn't let Carrie know. They bump into each other. When they bump into each other, Carrie finds out that he's actually engaged to a 26-year-old. So remember how in season 1 I told you he was immature because he was using his previous marriage as an excuse for not wanting to get serious with Carrie? You see how he was full of shit? And I knew it. I knew he was full of shit. Because if he really didn't want to get married, like he didn't like marriage at all, why would he get engaged with another woman? The problem is not marriage, Carrie. The problem is you. He doesn't like you. It's so obvious that it's painful that that man doesn't like you. Me personally, if I was Carrie in this situation, at this point, the point where you get engaged to another woman, that's when I clock out. But you know Carrie, you know how she is. She said, nah, I'm not gonna clock out yet. She wanted to be friends with Mr. Big. Friends? Friends. So, let me get this straight. After Carrie sees that Big has a new girlfriend, that is not only his girlfriend, it's his fiance, her first instinct is to try and be friends with Mr. Big. Knowing damn well he doesn't give a f about her. And you know what made me cringe? It was insane. This scene for me was insane. They go out to have lunch or dinner or something, and they're trying to be friends, and she tries to make him talk about his new girlfriend. Stop this madness. Like, girl, he don't want you. Like, remember on the first season when he told you, like, no, I don't want to get married ever, or something like that, some bullshit. Now he's engaged and you're still trying to be friends with that man? Have some self-respect. So now on season 3, Mr. Big gets married to his fiance. Her name is Natasha. And Carrie now has a new boyfriend, Aiden, who is such a sweetheart, by the way. For some reason, Carrie and Big reconnect. And Big starts talking about, oh, I don't want to be married no more, or some shit like that. And guess what happened? Now take a guess, take a guess. What do you think happened? Yeah. They slept together, yeah. Carrie hit a new low because now she's cheating on her boyfriend Aiden. But with the person that she's cheating on her boyfriend is Mr. Big, who is now a married man. That's insane. Insane. Something here that I didn't understand is that she published on her column. Remember how she's narrating and writing everything that's happening in every episode? So she published on her column that she'd slept with her ex-boyfriend. How did nobody fuck that? Like, her boyfriend, her current boyfriend Aiden, doesn't pick up the newspaper to read his girlfriend's column and see that, oh, my girlfriend published that she slept with her ex-boyfriend. Like, how did nobody found out? I don't understand. Or Natasha, being Mr. Big's wife, how did she didn't read, let me just read my husband's ex column just for funsies, and then she could have found out that they slept together. But anyway, that aside, here is when I realized that Carrie is such a loser. She is a loser. L-O-S-E-R, loser. Because Aiden is such a sweet dude. You have already had your experience with Mr. Big. He don't want you. He treated you like shit. Now you have this new nice dude who treats you very well, and you're going to throw it all away for this dude that doesn't care about you? Really? And the other scene that pissed me off is when she told Aiden, like, oh, I cheated on you. She told him, right? She's like, oh, I cheated on you, this and that. They were supposed to go to a wedding together, but then she tells him that she cheated, and then she's like, oh, are you not coming to the wedding with me? Girl, are you out of your damn mind? The other cringy scene of this show is Carrie trying to apologize to Natasha. Nothing that you say is going to make that woman feel better, you know? So just leave it alone. Then we get to where Carrie likes to play victim. Miranda reads her to filth, and Carrie starts acting like the victim and tries to blame Miranda for being so judgmental, which is true. But two things can be true at once.
Wake up, Carrie. How many more times are you gonna go through this? He is bad for you. Jesus, every time you get near him, you turn into this pathetic, needy, insecure victim, and the thing that pisses me off the most is that you're more than willing to go right back from work.
And then at the end, Mr. Big called Carrie again. What Carrie doesn't understand is that Mr. Big didn't call Carrie because they're soulmates. He called Carrie because he knows that he can get away with almost anything because she has no self-respect. In season 4, we have this era of Carrie biting more than she can chew. By some miracle, Aiden forgives Carrie, so they're back together in a relationship. But now, Carrie is pushing her boundaries because she wants to remain friends with Big. Even after cheating on Aiden with Mr. Big, and Aiden knows that she cheated on him with Mr. Big, she still wants to remain friends with Mr. Big. Like, Carrie, you're pushing it. What makes you think that Aiden is going to be okay with you being friends with the guy that you cheated on him with? You lost your damn mind. Aiden, for some reason that I still don't know, proposed to Carrie, and she is still having doubts if Aiden is the guy for her. All because she is still attached to Mr. Loser. But guess what happened? Because she was like, oh Aiden, I don't know if I want you, but I still want to remain friends with Mr. Big. Like, she was trying to have them both in some weird way. Aiden calls off the engagement and Mr. Big moves to California. So now she's left with nothing. And the funniest part is that Big wasn't planning on telling Carrie. She just found out because she went to his apartment and saw that he had nothing there. And she's going all out to give him like a goodbye party. Like, what the f are you doing, Carrie? That man doesn't give a f about you. He didn't even told you he was moving from New York City. He's doing the same thing all over again. He did it when he was leaving to Paris, and he did it a second time when he's leaving to California. Season 5 was kind of slow for the Carrie and Mr. Big relationship. They kind of like saw each other once or twice, I don't know, in California. And here they have a conversation about, because Carrie publishes a book of all her story, like all her columns that she's been publishing on the newspaper. She made a book out of it. And Mr. Big finally reads them all, and now he's like kind of like finding out how he made Carrie feel. This is what I'm telling you, he's so immature. He knew what he was doing, he's just acting dumb. That's what I'm saying, he's so immature. But that's pretty much what happened on season 5. On season 6, Carrie starts dating a loser, because he's a loser, named Burger. Like, what the f is that, Burger? He got mad when he found out that Carrie was making more money than him. He's a loser, like, I don't know what to tell you, he really is a loser. He almost fell out of the motorcycle because he's trying to be cool, but he's not. And the only cool thing about him is that he listens to ASMR to fall asleep. A little bit ahead on season 6, Carrie starts dating this Russian dude who, honestly, I was feeling him because he was very calm, boring. He had his life figured out, like he knew what he wanted to do. But then she has her Emily in Paris era. She moves to Paris with the Russian guy. Now, I know I said I was feeling the Russian guy, but I wasn't feeling him that much. To leave my job in New York to follow a man in Paris, France. Because remember, okay, she wrote a book, I understand that, but her main job is still writing the column for the newspaper. The newspaper that she writes for is a New York newspaper, and her column is about her living in New York City. So it's not like she's a blogger, like she could keep vlogging her life from Paris, you know, like this is the early 2000s. She's a writer for New York, so she needs to live in New York in order to write about New York, and that's her job. Why did she quit her job, which I think was her thing, you know, like she was very much like, oh, this is my job. That's the only thing I think I liked about Carrie, you know, she was a professional and successful woman in her job. Why would she leave her job to follow a man?
As soon as
Please, Carrie.
And on top of that, she doesn't even speak French. So what the f are you gonna do there? At the end, we kind of have a little bit of a happy ending moment because Mr. Big comes in clutch. He saves her from Paris, France. So that's what you will think. You will think that they had a happy ending. That's the season finale, right? But then we have the Sex and the City movie. Girl, buckle up. Here is where the getting married Mission Impossible era begins. I feel like in the movie, Carrie low-key was the one that proposed to Mr. Big. He wanted to live together, if I'm not mistaken, like he had bought the apartment, right? for them to live together, but he didn't talk about getting married. He talked about it only after Carrie told him like, oh, I wouldn't have nothing on my name, this and that. So I feel like the getting married was more her idea than his idea. And now he couldn't play the card of, oh, I don't want to get married because I was previously married, because remember how he married Natasha, so he couldn't play that card. But still, he was still feeling like kind of iffy with the marriage thing. Like you could see it on his face and on his behavior. The thing is that they're having a pre-wedding dinner. I'm not sure what's the name of that. And Miranda, she had a fight with Steve, who is her husband, who I hate, by the way. Let's not even talk about that relationship of Miranda and Steve, okay, because I hate. The thing is that Miranda was like very stressed because she was having marriage problems with her own husband, and she sees Big and she tells him something along the lines of, you're crazy for getting married, this and that. The thing is that apparently that kind of like was making Mr. Big go a little bit cuckoo, because he was having war flashbacks from his previous marriage. And then when the day of the wedding arrives, guess what happened? Take a guess. Mr. Big left her hanging. He didn't got out of the car. He left her hanging. Now, are we surprised about this? No. I'm gonna say this for the girls watching this video. Never let a man tell you that he doesn't want you more than once. Never force your way into a man's life, especially a man that doesn't want you, because shit like this happens. He has been telling her since season 1 that he doesn't like her. Like, he's just not that into her. And then for some reason, she kind of forced him to be with her. And now he did this. That being said though, even though I think that Carrie should have seen this coming, when I was watching this scene, I teared up. Because it doesn't matter how much I don't like Carrie's romantic choices in the show, being left at the altar is diabolical.
Picked up for a minute, but I'm ready now. Carrie, I'm sorry.
Carrie has the audacity to blame it on Miranda for Big not wanting to marry her. Girl, if a man wants to marry you, it doesn't matter what people say, he's going to marry you. If a guy is in love with you and he wants to be with you, it doesn't matter what anybody says. And you want to blame it on Miranda because she said something? Mr. Big was just looking for excuses to leave you hanging. Like, Big never wanted to marry you. It doesn't matter what Miranda says. He just didn't want to marry you. And then what pissed me off is that she's like, nah, let me check if he messaged me. Let me check if he emailed me something. Why would you care if he left you a message, an email, a DM? Like, why would you give a f? He left you at the altar. Now we get to the era of Mr. Big doing the bare minimum. And I mean, we've been in this era. He's been doing the bare minimum. But here is very, very noticeable. So Carrie checks her email. She's like, okay, let me see if Mr. Big sent me something. And you know what he emailed her? He literally copy and pasted love letters that other men had written to their respective love interests and sent them to Carrie. And the only thing that he wrote that came out of his mouth that wasn't copy and pasted was, I will love you forever. Like, when I tell you the bar is in hell, after you left me at the altar, that's all you have to say? I will love you forever? Really? I don't think so, because you didn't came to the wedding. So what the f are you talking about? And then Carrie, as soon as she sees him, she runs to his arms. And then the most embarrassing thing is that she says, I'm sorry I put you through that. Put you through what? A wedding? Whoever hears her talking will think, oh my gosh, she made him go to war. Why are you excusing this man's behavior? It's so embarrassing. Carrie, you need to understand that this man don't want you. He just settled for you because he knows that regardless of what he does, you will always take him back. And then there's a second movie which I watched, but I'm not even gonna talk about it because it doesn't add anything to the plot. I'm going to pretend like the second movie doesn't exist. And then there's a show, I think. I didn't watch that one. So I don't know if in that show we can see a little bit more of Mr. Big and Carrie's relationship. But so far, it sucks. Another reason I'm going to pretend like the second movie doesn't exist is because on the second movie they made Samantha and Jason break up, and they were my favorite couple. So yeah, I'm just going to pretend like the second movie doesn't exist. Watching Sex and the City, I was very disappointed with Carrie Bradshaw's character. She was not that girl. You know who was that girl? Samantha. But overall, the show, I enjoyed it. You know, it was not a bad show. There's a few things who were a little bit outdated, and I'm glad I watched it as an adult. I'm in my 20s and I feel like I already know a lot of the things of how guys operate, how the dating pool is. So I think by the time I'm in my 30s, I'm going to be not surprised by anything. In comparison with Carrie, that she was acting like she didn't knew how guys behaved. You know, that's one of the things, like I said, that kind of threw me off. If you don't know these things by the time that you're in your 30s, what the f did you do in your 20s? Unless you were married. Let's say if you got married when you were 20 and then you got a divorce when you were 30, so throughout all your 20s you were married and now you're getting back in the dating pool on your 30s, then I will understand that you don't know that much about how guys like to play games. But that wasn't her case. Like, she's been dating throughout all of her 20s and now her 30s, so I really don't understand why was she getting played by men. But anyway, this was my review and my thoughts on why Carrie Bradshaw was so embarrassing. Let me know what you think of the show if you have watched it. If you haven't, the show is on Netflix right now, so you can watch it. And tell me who's your favorite out of the 4 girls. And I'll see you when I see ya, okay? Bye!
When I lost my mind.
Mami, ¿qué tú quieres? Aquí llegó tu tiburón.